Your sensors are correct. Do not adjust your heading. You've discovered the Omega Particle, streaming to the Alpha Quadrant and beyond. Here's your host, the anchorman of the Federation, the Doctor of Dilithium. This is Jonathan Wiegand.
Like the man said, welcome to the Omega Particle Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wiegand, with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair, with talent on loan from God. It is good to be back. I just got back from vacation about a week ago. My gosh, it's been a fast week. Usually that first week back from vacation is absolutely nuts, and same for me. So absolutely nuts. But we were in, like I mentioned, Washington, D.C., and it was early morning, probably like 8:30, and we were at this, what was it, Luna? It was like this, I don't know, like food court kind of thing, but it's like in a government building. So it's like not a lot of tourists are there. It's just regular, government workers and stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for our coffee and breakfast burritos from this place. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, "What's your favorite Star Trek?" And the fun part is I have this Starfleet Academy sweatshirt that I was wearing that my wife gave me for Christmas. And he's like, "What's your favorite Star Trek?" And I was like, "Of course, Deep Space Nine." And this gentleman was a little bit older, probably in his, I would say 50s or 60s. And he was really surprised by that answer. He's like, "Really?" And I kind of went into my big spiel about why Deep Space Nine's the best. And of course, he's like, "I love TNG, Captain Picard. He's the man. He's the best." Which I don't disagree. There is no wrong answer, like with Trek. And that's what I told him. And he laughed. He was like, no matter if you love the original series or Voyager or even Discovery, like that's fine. Like you're entitled to like what you like. But it was really fun because he's like, "I've never heard somebody like Deep Space Nine that much." I was like, "Oh, I love it. I adore it." And then we kind of led down into this big thing about like how, because he was former military, like how so many former military people love Star Trek. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is great. I've never really thought about that." Maybe that's a potential episode in the future, but that's kind of what I've been up to the last couple weeks and the last couple of months. It's been really crazy with work, kind of transitioning stuff with job, delegating some of my things. So it's just taking a lot of my time. The podcast, of course, has come down, but we do have a lot of fun announcements to make before we get into the News and Brews. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. And News and Brews is the news of Star Trek for the past week or however long it is, and brews. So it could be alcohol, like, some brews or some cold brew, which I'm really into cold brew, and that's what I'm drinking right now. So welcome if this is your first time. But want to announce two partnerships with the podcast. One with Fansets. You guys will be seeing that on Instagram and so other social medias. And the other is, again, we're partnering with Nubeo watches. So if you go on Nubeo and you type in OPP50, you can get 50% off those watches. I'll talk about the partnerships maybe a couple more times in the episodes, but I don't like to do ads. It's mainly just on Instagram and social media, so we don't have to, hear like a 45-second ad or a minute ad or anything like that. I didn't want that, and that was kind of part of the deal and part of the contract, so we're good there. Also, if you follow Star Trek on social media, especially Jonathan Frakes, you'll see that Purple Strides is coming up, which is for pancreatic cancer, and that's coming up in late April. And we're some talks maybe to do this really cool marathon type of thing at the end of April to raise money for pancreatic cancer, which of course is very dear and near to my heart because that is what I lost my mother to. It'd be great to kind of give back and use the podcasting and the Star Trek community for that. I think that'd be really cool. So be on the lookout for that. That again is in late April. And I think that's enough news about the podcast, but what about the world of Trek? Let's get into that. Luna, roll that beautiful bean footage. So the last day of the Star Trek Cruise 2025 it happened a few weeks ago, but there's a couple fans on the trip that were kind of sending me stuff and was like, "Oh, this is a really cool interview and this is a really cool forum and check this out." And this is probably one of the most interesting and curious things I've heard, and I would love to know about your thoughts as well. So feel free to reach out to us on social media because, right, Luna, we have the smartest fans. We have the best, good-looking, intelligent fans. Luna, the intern, everybody. And so the last day featured this Deep Space Nine panel, and it had, the great series stars, Nana Vister, who played Kira Nerys. We had Nicole DeBoer, who played, I guess it's like the second iteration of Dax. And also reoccurring guest stars Jeffrey Combs and Chase Masterson, just the greats. And one of the topics that they brought up was an appreciation for the creative freedom the Deep Space Nine team had relative to TNG or Voyager. And Nana Vister agreed, but voiced that they wish they could have had a chance to present the show in a musical setting and almost in an opera. And continuing the musical train of thought, the announcer said, or the host of this said, Casey Biggs, recalled, "It's interesting you say that because Ira and I talked about it, and I flew in a composer from New York to meet with Ira about doing a Broadway musical version of, who knows if they could have used DS9, but it would have been Star Trek. But then Ira said, it takes 2 years for these type of things, so it just got a little wonky and away from him." And I think as amusing as it might have been to imagine a musical Star Trek episode 30 years ago, before, the subspace rhapsody of most recent years, Nana Vister had a revelation of her own, and it involved Biggs' character, Damar. And she told Casey Biggs that, "I just had this thought. The woman who talked about what show we would be, like if it'd be a movie or something, there's a storyline for two characters, because the last time that Nana Vister saw Renee, he said, you know what, really yours and Casey's characters should have gotten together." And the musical is one thing, but I think in addition to playing Odo, Rene Auberjonois, he was a very celebrated actor on stage, screen, very accomplished voice performer. He even directed a lot of Deep Space Nine episodes and even narrated multiple audiobooks. If he had strong feelings about a particular storyline, maybe he was on to something. I think doing the musical episode would have been, just to be honest, I think it would have bombed. I don't think it would have been very good. It's just the vibe. Maybe earlier seasons of Deep Space Nine, maybe like season 3 or maybe in like season 4, but really before the Dominion War starts ramping up, because I couldn't imagine season 6 or season 7, they're just like, Dominion War, people are dying, we get the list every day, oh, this is terrible. All right, let's have a musical episode where we're dancing and we get the Jem'Hadar in there, and I just don't think that would have been a very good idea or even a good concept. It's just, and it would have been awkward, and it really wouldn't have fit the vibe. And the Subspace Rhapsody was good, but it still had its faults. It was still kind of clunky, in my opinion. And let me know what you guys think. If you're like, no, Jonathan, that was great, I love the musical, it was shut your mouth, I hope they do it every year. But the biggest thing to me is love story between Damar and Kira. I don't really know how I feel about that, and honestly could even see that, because I know Damar eventually changes his ways near the end of Deep Space Nine. I'm not going to go into too much for spoilers if you've never watched it, but I just don't see them ever syncing up, just simply because of the atrocities and the lifelong struggle of being a resistance fighter for Kira. And then suddenly getting with Damar, that's just like, that's too much. That's way too much. Yeah, I just don't see it ever happening. Let me know your thoughts, and maybe I'm way off base on this. Moving on to more recent projects outside of the fun stories we hear on Trek cruise panels. And also, did anybody, I know I talked to a few of you, but is there a large majority of Trek fans go on these things? Because they sell out within weeks of announcing, and they do it a year in advance. So 2026 is already sold out. I'm like, man, these are wildly popular, but I've never really gone in depth with somebody that's actually been on one. Okay, how is it? I'm not really into cruising at all, but yeah, if you have been, shout a line anywhere on social media. We'd love to talk to you. I just have questions, general questions. Maybe we'll do an episode about it in the future. But rabbit hole. Back to our next story here on News and Brews, and that is more, like I said, more of a recent story, and it has to do with the project Starfleet Academy. And that is on the horizon. It is coming. And thank the Lord that we have Jonathan Frakes directing some of the episodes. And he just revealed a lot of new details about the show. So if you haven't heard anything about Starfleet Academy, outside of my sweatshirt that I wear, so it's set in the 32nd century. I didn't mispronounce, 32nd century. And it follows a new generation of Starfleet cadets as they train at the legendary academy for the first time in over a century. This is due to the events in Discovery. If you haven't watched Discovery, there's a reason why they're in the 32nd century. But either way, this is unlike any previous Trek series because this will show really all about Earth. It will primarily take place on Earth. And I'm kind of excited for it because this is a new future. You know, after Picard season 3, we don't really get anything else in the Star Trek universe. And even before Picard show, it was really just the movies ended with Nemesis. Was it Nemesis, Luna? Correct me if I'm wrong, and then it was nothing for forever. It was all prequels. That was it, or just rehashing stuff or different universes or whatever, but it wasn't any continuation. And so I'm kind of excited for this. Not excited for the fact it's in the 32nd century, to be honest, but curious what it could do because it's bringing in a lot of veteran Trek actors and also a lot of newcomers as well. We have Holly Hunter playing the Chancellor, Paul Giamatti, he's going to be this recurring villain. Also does a lot of great Star Trek alums like Tig Notaro, Robert Picardo, Mary Wiseman. And I'm hoping that this show births just a whole series of new generations. Don't get me wrong, I love Lower Decks, and if you're kind of in your cubicle or driving or wherever you're listening to this and you're like shouting at me and be like, no, you forgot about Lower Decks. I'm like, Lower Decks counts, but it counts, but I'm talking away from comedy, something like a TNG style, very serious, real Generations reboot that isn't a cartoon. So during a Star Trek panel hosted by Collider at the Indiana Comic Convention, Frakes confirmed that Starfleet Academy has completed filming and assured it will resonate with longtime fans. Hopefully they're learning their lessons from Picard Season 3. We shall see. Frakes, who is set to direct several episodes of the series, also revealed that Starfleet Academy has an impressive set design, including a gigantic spaceship. And this is what he had to say below. He said, Robert Picardo's in it, Tig Notaro's in it. It's the most massive set of any Star Trek ever. There's also a spaceship on the show, which I hope is not a effing secret. I had a bad experience with oversharing, and I hope that wasn't overshare, but it's great. The sets are great. The scripts are funny. They're fantastic. And it's aimed, this is why I brought it up, this show is aimed at more hardcore Star Trek fans. And I think that's going to be fun, because normally we don't really get shows that are really about, it's a very low bar. Like, if you know nothing about Trek, you just watch. I hope this changes that, because I want there to be a show for us. And I feel like Picard Season 3 was that, and hopefully they continue this way. And again, this is kind of mirroring Deep Space Nine, because we're going away from the deep space exploration, and now it's going to be about a group of cadets on a stationary place on Earth. I just hope it doesn't turn into a soap opera, but we'll see. There's a starship on the show, so I'm sure they're going to be going around, gallivanting around the galaxy and getting into trouble and facing complex moral dilemmas and trying to reunite the Starfleet and the coalition of planets and these utopian ideals and blah, blah, blah. We'll see. There's no official release date yet, but it did wrap in February of 2025. So hopefully he gets out there. Yeah, I'd love for that to be done soon, and hopefully in 2025. I would hate to waste 2026 for it, because I feel like, yeah, we're kind of going light on some Star Trek shows right now. And speaking of going light on Star Trek shows, you can actually change that. And for anybody on the West Coast, I am just green with jealousy right now, because moving on to our next story, and that is something at Universal Studios called FanFest Nights. Now, just to be clear, nobody at Universal Studios told me to talk about this. I just was reading it and I was like, man, I'm jealous. I should let people know, just in case they don't. Hey, looks like it's gonna be pretty legit. Again, not making any residuals. I would love to, wink wink, if somebody's listening at Universal, which I highly doubt. So Universal Hollywood is rolling out this Fan Fest nights, and it's going to be laying the groundwork for a lot of different fandoms. Will be cool because they're also doing some anime stuff, which I've recently gotten into. So they have One Piece and JJK or Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be there. They're primarily doing Star Trek. That's a big one. And it's going to start on April 25th and go through select nights all the way till Sunday, May 18th. So if you're in or around Hollywood or the West Coast of the United States, check that out because they're going to be adding something that's very unique to, I guess, the Star Trek, because I don't feel like we've ever done this before. They're going to use the actual bridge set that was featured on the third and final season of Picard, and that's going to be part of this ride, this experience. So it's called Star Trek Red Alert, and you go on this, I guess, this adventure on the Enterprise D, and you kind of have a walkthrough experience, a lot of the locations, and including the iconic bridge, which to me is, oh my gosh, they like reconstructed this from the ground up, and they used it on the show. I was like, how could I not want to fly over there and do it? That's on the other side of the country. And I would love to know if anybody does go to it and send pictures and let me know your experience, because I would think that would be so cool to do that. And that's not all. I feel like they're trying to tap into us because we're a great market. And like I said, we're a great fandom. They're actually going to be doing a lot of, like they're going to recreate 10 Forward and Quarks around this ride. So you can go and get your Targ, and you can get your Chateau Picard. That's tough to say, Targ and Chateau Picard right after each other. I should have wrote that in the notes, Luna. Thanks for that. Also, any like tea, Earl Grey. I think it's gonna be super cool. This is one thing I've two more stories. We can wrap this up. So one of these things just happened last week that I heard about coming off of vacation. I was like, this is so cool. So I know a lot of people use their Apple AirPods, right? I used to wear AirPods a lot when I worked in the office. I don't really have to anymore working from home, but I think this is so cool is that this next generation of AirPods will be allowed to do live translations in your ear. So you say, like, for example, in a couple months, I'm going to another country on vacation, and so I'm hearing French. It'll be able to translate it live into my ears to understand what they're saying. And I have to say, it's going to make going to the grocery store lit because I'm always curious if people are talking about me or whatever. I think that's going to be really cool, but it reminds me of the Universal Translator. And if you don't know too much about the Universal Translator, it's like a chip that they input into you. There's not really a lot of like backup or like lore about it. It just seems like they've input it into everybody's either ear or brain or something at some point in their life, and then they can hear all languages in the language they understand and know. So, for example, when you go to Quark's bar, everyone's speaking Ferengi, according to Quark, vice versa. And I'm like, man, how close are we to that, technology-wise, that if we're already having things that are external that can do live translations, how close are we to that where it's almost becoming like a cybernetic implant, and then there will be no language like differences at all. It'll all just, so I'll go to like a foreign country and everyone's speaking English, and if I go to Canada, everyone's speaking, well, certain parts will speak French. And it's like, man, that's really cool. So I thought I would share that if you haven't. If you're Apple AirPods people, check it out. I have not, like I said, I haven't bought one for probably like 5 or so years, but it seems like the technology's come a super long way. And the last story is about the Paramount IDW Star Trek comments, because I've read a few of the series, but one is starting to come to an end. And before that comes to an end, I just want to say these are really good. And I would highly recommend getting into the IDW Star Trek series comics. They have a very wide storylines. There's a bunch of different ones, but these are just almost too good to pass up. And I really want, again, I'm not getting paid for any of this. I wish I was, but I'm not. And so I would definitely take a recommendation, find if you can see them, maybe go to Barnes & Noble or somewhere you can get them, because they have taken huge creative swings and created some of the best licensed tie-in comics that probably ever. I really think Paramount should even like hire these people to work television shows because it's that good. For example, the very first one, this new era of Star Trek comics, kicked off with the Star Trek number 400, And it's the final story seeded the God War, in which Kahless 2 declares war on the quote-unquote gods. And then Captain Sisko returns to stop Kahless, because we all know Captain Sisko is in the Celestial Temple with the prophets, wormhole aliens, whatever we're going to call them. And so they have to kind of to stop Kahless 2, they have to get the all-stars from across the franchise. You get Worf, you get all these kind of great, you get Frakes, or not Frakes, but you get Riker back, and they're on the Defiant, and it's just this huge, cool crossover event. I'm like, man, that would be a bitchin' show if we could watch that. And they have crossovers across every incarnation of Star Trek. Definitely check that out. I just wanted to give a quick plug for that. If you haven't gotten into them and you love new Star Trek, like I mentioned, we don't really have too much shows coming out. Please check out the comics. They're great, from one Star Trek hardcore fan to another. And I think that's all we got. Luna, you ready to hit it? All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been great. Back behind the golden OPP microphone. Be on the lookout for, like I mentioned, the end of April. We're going to do this cool thing with PanCan, pancreatic cancer, and somewhat of a fundraiser for them. We're still working out the kinks and the licensing. And again, thank you all so much for the support. I love hearing from you guys. It's been awesome. And we can say shout out. We have over 100,000 now? Yeah, so we have over 100,000 across all social media followers. So thank you. That's a huge accomplishment. We love it. Thank you so much. Couldn't do this without you guys. I love the Star Trek community and the fans we have. Just remember, we're getting into spring now. Keep those crowns on straight, king or queens. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. And let not your heart be troubled. Luna? Without further ado, second star to the right. Straight on till morning.